Okay. Good morning. Thank you for joining us here today, and I'm sorry that we have to gather under such tragic circumstances. I'm going to share the basics of what we know, and after my remarks, Chief Scoggins and Chief Barnes will be sharing additional detail. Shortly after 6 p.m. last night, officers responded to the sound of gunfire. They were assigned to support Bite of Seattle and were on scene within seconds and took one suspect into custody. No police weapons were discharged. We believe that 2 people exchanged gunfire outside the Seattle Center Armory. 7 victims were caught in the crossfire, with a possible 8th. And again, Chief Scoggins will be providing more detail about the victims after my remarks. A 19-year-old man, a 44-year-old man, and a 56-year-old woman were killed. 2 died at the scene, and a 3rd passed away at Harborview Medical Center. Official identification will come from the King County Medical Examiner's Office. The Seattle Police Department detained a 15-year-old juvenile in connection with the shooting. The teen was booked into the Judge Patricia H. Clark Children and Family Justice Center for investigation for firearms violations and first-degree assault. We believe this teenager opened fire in the crowd, but details are still under investigation. This individual will have a first appearance court hearing at 1:30 p.m. today. And again, we have not formally arrested anyone for investigation of homicide. We appreciate your patience, and we are releasing information when we can. Please remember that we are only 17 hours into this case. I know there have been a lot of questions about this, so I do want to briefly address the timeline last night. At Seattle Center, we had an active investigation ongoing, including continued search for a possible second suspect. And SPD conducted a briefing with elected officials online at 9 p.m., including many people standing here today. We were advised that it was better for me and others not to be on the scene. Once it became clear that SPD was ready to brief the press, I, the governor, Congresswoman Jayapal, made our way rapidly to Seattle Center so that we would be able to be there to share that information with you all. What are we doing right now? So right now, this is an all-hands-on-deck response. Investigating this tragedy has been taken on by nearly every part of our police department. Our Human Services Department Victim Advocates team is working with SPD to support the needs of the victims and their families. And we are so grateful for their incredible work and dedication. Two victim advocates work alongside SPD detectives in the Violent Crimes Unit to help survivors navigate the criminal legal system, understand their rights, and gain access to crime victims' compensation, among other resources. Community Passageways is reaching out to the affected families immediately and offering in-home support to help families legal victim support and other systems. The organization is also convening an emergency meeting to assess the possibility of retaliation, identify ongoing safety concerns, and help the people involved to navigate those risks. Support is tailored to each family's circumstances. Our immediate priorities are to help families remain safe, reduce the risk of future violence, and make sure that they have practical and emotional support during the first days following the shooting. I want to acknowledge that this has been an especially tough week here in Seattle. Thursday night, there was a shooting near Aurora in North Seattle, again in Capitol Hill on Friday night, and now at the Seattle Center last night. While the police department continues their investigations, we cannot let up on implementing a multi-pronged gun violence strategy. We know that gun violence can be prevented. Evidence-based strategies have proven results in cities across the nation. We know that a successful gun violence reduction strategy is based on strong partnerships between community leaders who design and implement neighborhood-based prevention strategies, social service providers focused on the root causes of violence, community members with moral authority over group members who can deliver a credible message against violence, community members who can interrupt cycles of violence and de-escalate tensions before they erupt, and law enforcement who can hold group members accountable if they decide not to put down their guns. The City of Seattle is partnering with state, federal, and local government partners to launch a gun violence reduction strategy that will build on programs, services, and law enforcement efforts already underway. We will be bringing on an expert in gun violence reduction, including youth violence prevention, who will partner with city staff and our community-based partners. Chief Barnes and the Seattle Police Department will be implementing near-term strategies to amplify our summer efforts, and I'll let the Chief describe those momentarily. We are committed to working in impacted neighborhoods across our city, from Rainier Beach to the Chinatown International District and Little Saigon, to Capitol Hill, to North Aurora, to address both the immediate impacts and the root causes of gun violence. And I also want to express appreciation for our City Attorney Erica Evans for her leadership in beginning to use extreme risk protection orders to take guns away from people at high risk of committing violence. No one should have to fear for their safety or their life before attending an event, gathering with friends, or experiencing our city. No parent should have to worry that their kid won't come home at the end of the day. My heart is with the victims of last night's tragedy and their families and everyone who is suffering for their loss. And I also know that many people who were not physically injured will carry what they experienced yesterday with them for a long time. The terror and the trauma of gun violence reaches far beyond those who are struck by the bullets. I want to express profound gratitude to our police officers who were on the scene and responded immediately and with care and decisiveness, and to everyone at the Seattle Police Department who has been working nonstop since this tragedy occurred. And our Seattle firefighters and the medical personnel at Harborview who treated the injured, as well as Seattle Center and event staff and bystanders who helped people to reach safety and provided aid in terrifying circumstances. We are in this together, and now I'm going to turn the mic over to Chief Scoggins to provide some more information.
Good morning. I want to lead with expressing condolences to all of the individuals and the families who lost loved ones. I'm going to cover the list of the individuals who passed away and who are still injured. And I'll start out first with those who passed away. On scene, a 19-year-old male was declared deceased at the scene. On scene, a 44-year-old male was declared deceased at the scene. Our paramedics transported a 56-year-old female in serious condition who passed away at Harborview Medical Center. So those are the three individuals who passed away, 2 on scene and 1 at Harborview. Seattle Fire medics and EMTs treated a 40-year-old female with minor injuries who declined to be transported to the hospital. So treated but not transported. A 39-year-old female in stable condition was transported to Harborview and has since been discharged from Harborview Medical Center. A 2-year-old male was transported to Harborview by Seattle Fire paramedics and is still at Harborview in satisfactory condition. A 23-year-old male was transported in stable condition by paramedics to Harborview and has since been discharged. And last night, a 27-year-old male reported to UW Medical Center, Montlake, in satisfactory condition with a gunshot wound that has since been discharged. And that's possibly the 8th patient, but SPD has to follow up and interview this individual. Now I'll pass it to Chief Barnes.
Certainly last night was a tragedy. It's becoming all too familiar in this community and many communities as well. Any loss of life due to gun violence is unacceptable, as is the terror it causes our community. Our department has been taking a lot of steps to address gun violence this year, and those steps will be increased following this tragic incident last night at Seattle Center. An incident in which 3 people suffered fatal injuries. Our hearts as a department, as a city, as a county, as a state, goes out to those victims and all who were affected by this tragedy. Officers were assigned to work the Seattle Bite of Seattle event. The staffing was adequate. The placement was good. That's one of the first things that I checked on when I got the first call around 6:30. And because of such, we believe that additional loss or injury of life occurred. Our officers, as well as members from the fire department, medic team, ran toward gunfire in an attempt to render life-saving aid and to disarm someone who was actively firing a weapon into a crowd. We believe that the bullets that were fired were from two individuals who appeared to be firing at one another. And as the mayor stated, a 15-year-old suspect was taken into custody. We have a full complement of police officers working on this case, as well as professional staff. They work till about 4 a.m. They're at home now getting some rest. They've been replaced by officers who are working now, professional staff who are working now. We had our regularly scheduled 10 a.m. gun call, which is a gun screening where we analyze every case of gun violence that occur in our city twice a week. We did that today in an attempt to bring everyone up to speed and so that everyone can participate in this particular case. We will leave no stone unturned to bring all of those who may be involved to justice. In Seattle, the problem of gun violence is worsened by small groups. We have small groups that appear to be at odds with each other, and in our city, 0.01% of the population is connected to 52% of our shootings, most of which are young people, which is why our department partners with community members, with our mayor's office, with our prosecutors and our federal partners, some of which are here today, to find the underlying causes of this. With us today is Bishop Witherspoon. He meets with me and a group of pastors almost monthly to talk about how we can help and come together as a community to not only end gun violence, but to wrap our arms around kids that may be on the brink. This is very important work, I believe. This is the work that I got into policing to do. The department alone cannot fix the issue of gun violence. We need the entire system, the entire community to come together to address this now. There is more work to be done, but I believe that we can do it if we do it together. Again, my heart goes out to everyone who was there, everyone who witnessed the gun violence. I want to thank all of our partners who were on the scene, as well as our officers and professional staff. But more importantly, if you were there, or you saw something, or you witnessed something, or you recorded something, I want to give our violent crimes tip line, which is 206-233-5000, or you can simply call 911 with your information so we can screen that with an investigator. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're happy to take some questions.
Can you clear up, Mayor? You put out information yesterday suggesting that 2 people were in custody. We're hearing that there's 1 person in custody. It's unclear if that shooter is still on the loose or if the shooter is deceased. Can you clear that up?
Yeah, so what I'll say, I think in complex situations like this, information flies around. And so that initial report that we got of 2 suspects in custody was incorrect. And that's part of why it's taken us a while to be able to stand here and say this is accurate information. In terms of the status of the potential second suspect, I'm going to bump that question over to Chief Barnes.
Yeah, we were receiving information that a second suspect potentially ran toward the IMAX theater. So that may have been where some of the confusion were. We use our SWAT team as well as other resources to slowly and meticulously search that area just in case someone was hiding out there. We did not find anyone. In fact, that search really ended probably about 15 minutes before the press conference last night, which could be one of the causes of the delay that you spoke about earlier.
So is there a second shooter on the loose right now?
There is a second shooter. We're trying to identify who that person is. Our officers need your help. If someone saw something or perhaps if someone has some video, we need to identify that person. We do believe that there was an exchange of gunfire. We have 1 person in custody that our officers took into custody. We need to figure out who that other person is.
Chief, you know that people are angry that this was 5 hours that your department waited to tell people that there is a shooter on the loose. Why wait 5 hours to tell people? And then here we are 17 hours later, and you still don't have that person.
Yeah, again, you're right. We do not have that person in custody, but we wanted to get it right. Again, we were searching the IMAX theater. It was possible that that person could have ran in there if that person would have been taken into custody. Are angry? You should be. Everyone should be angry. But with that anger, you should also be asking yourself, what can I do to prevent this? We have to start partnering together. We have to start working together on this issue of gun violence and getting information out and providing opportunities for people so that things like this do not happen. If I had, really a crystal ball, it would be that we could work with our young people, work with our groups, and make sure that they understand that this is not the way to go. This incident affected a lot of people. Internally, people who visited our amazing city. We're just coming off a very successful event with the FIFA where we had no incidents, and to have something like this this weekend is definitely unacceptable.
But Chief, the mayor's office put out misinformation, and that is serious. Pieces together. Is it safe for me to go outside? Shooter. Do you take that seriously? And this question would go directly to the mayor. What can be done to assure that never happens again?
Well, let me say this. Right. Let me say this. Yes, we take our jobs very seriously. And so we want to get out information as early and as often as possible. It is unfortunate that sometimes, in any situation, early information is sometimes incorrect. But what do you do when that happens? You correct that information and then you move forward. How do we get better? We get better by going back. We do after-action reviews, which we will do on this case, and we'll try to ensure that the information is correct. But we have to get something out to our community when we can. No, you go ahead, Mike.
Were you in town yesterday?
I was not in town yesterday. I wish that I had a crystal ball and we could schedule gun violence, but we can't. Yesterday, I was in Dallas at the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives Conference. It's their 50th anniversary. At that conference, 2 members from our community were being honored. One of our pastors was given an award for his work in the community, and one of our officers, one of our CSOs, was given an award, and I wanted to be there for that. That's why I was not here.
Do you have any video of this incident from the Seattle Center? You reviewed it yet? They have cameras there.
I do not know if we have video of it. I have not had a briefing on that just yet.
I'm sort of curious, Chief, if you don't mind.
Cameras, we were told yesterday that there were no security cameras in the area where the shooting occurred. Why would that be the case, especially with such a major public event?
I'm not sure where the camera placement are. Those, the video unit, they're probably at home asleep now. They'll give me another second briefing this afternoon. We'll be able to answer that question.
I want to go back to 30 minutes.
Hold on. We're going to let the mayor answer the question. Hang on.
Yeah, I'll just say I've been told that the Seattle Center does have cameras, and we are in the process of pulling that footage to see if there's anything relevant in there.
Well, to back up on that, too, the CCTV cameras have been a real talker. This could have happened in the Stadium District, and you decided to turn those off pending an audit. How do you feel now?
The safety of the residents of Seattle is my highest responsibility, and I take that very seriously. In the course that we've charted on the CCTV cameras, which is a matter of public record, that means balancing various kinds of safety for different communities, and that is the motivation behind the course that we're taking.
Chief, can you please reconcile?
We're over here.
Could you reconcile for me? Last night we were told public is in no danger, nothing to worry about here, and then on the other hand, we hear that there is still a second suspect at large. How do you reconcile the two of those?
Yeah, I think you may have been, whenever there's a shooting and we're looking for suspects and that person is not in custody, there's always a danger, right? And so what we want to get out to the public is that the interior scene, what we call our inner perimeter, was secure. I believe that's the message that we were trying to get out. We had a second scene that was only cleared a couple of minutes before the actual press. And so we're trying to get information out as often as we can, but our focus is on the search for the suspect. And so we will certainly, as I stated before, we have no problem with doing after-action reviews, understanding how to work better with our communication strategy, making sure you get the information that you need so that you can do your job, which is what? To ensure that our public is informed on public safety matters, because I believe that the public has a right to participate in their own public safety.
Well,
they can only do that if we get our information out, and that's what we're going to try.
And part of that, I think this is the first time we're hearing.
Do you have an idea of motive, and is there any indication that this is related to gang activity?
I don't know if it's gang activity, but certainly group activity. We have to determine the nexus behind what happened. Obviously, with someone so young, we have to determine if this person is a part of a group or a part of a gang, what the ongoing conflict was. But we're gonna do that. Our officers are going to work. We do have an intelligence section that's going to work to identify everyone that was involved to see if there is some connection between the two. But then once we do that, we have to verify that connection.
And Chief, just to be clear, is it possible that one of the victims that died last night is the second shooter?
It is possible, but we do not know that that is the case until we do the investigation. We will make sure, again, you just stated that accuracy is important, so we want to take our time and make sure that we're accurate.
One part of that, two people shooting at each other is a lot different than one person firing indiscriminately. I think this is the first time we're hearing that 17 hours later. What commitment do you all make as elected leaders to make that transparency earlier in the process so people aren't waiting 3 to 5 hours without any sort of clarity?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that there's a tension here between providing information quickly and providing information accurately, right? So if we had been reporting up to the minute everything that we were hearing in the swirl that happened last night, there would have been a lot of inaccuracies out there that would have confused people and that we then would have had to correct. So we are managing this tension, and we are doing the best that we can to provide accurate information in a timely manner without increasing confusion.
I mean, your reaction to people having the chaos in a vacuum.
We've been listening to authorities provide an update on the Seattle mass shooting that left 3 people dead last night at 6 p.m. local time. They believe 2 people exchanged gunfire and that innocent people who were enjoying themselves at this food festival in Seattle got caught in the crosshairs. One suspect, a 15-year-old juvenile, is in custody. Police are searching for a second suspect. Here's what we know about the casualties. A 19-year-old man and 44-year-old man both died at the scene. A 66-year-old woman died at the hospital, and there are others injured. So in total, there are 7 people affected, possibly 8, because a man walked into a hospital with a gunshot wound, and they are trying to determine if that happened here. Now, a couple of important things to note. First of all, we hear reporters there asking questions of the police chief and the mayor, why it took so long to let the public know that there was another shooter on the loose. It was apparently 5 hours between the shooting and them letting the community know that another shooter was outstanding. And now 17 hours later, and still, it was at the very end of that press conference when the police chief finally said they believe they have a second shooter who is outstanding. And also at the end, they were asked whether it is possible one of the people who died is the second shooter. And the police chief did say that it was a possibility, but they are not certain, and so they are not going to give any more information on that. Let's go ahead and bring in Anna Schechter, who covers crime for CBS News. Anna, what were your other takeaways from this press conference?
Well, the stress on the age of the first suspect, just 15 years old, and the police chief spoke about how there are groups of, he did not want to say gangs, but groups of people that make up about 0.01% of the population, he said, that are behind this issue of gun violence. He stressed that point, but I actually think it's fascinating that the 15-year-old suspect is not giving the information on the second suspect, because if you had that one person in custody talking, you would know the identity of the second person. And officials made it clear they still do not have the identity of the second shooter that they believe was also firing shots. They probably have done a ballistics check, and they believe that there were 2 shooters. So those are the things that jumped out at me watching that press conference.
Were you also surprised at sort of the order of things? Because, yes, we did get the number of casualties, everybody who has been affected, but it felt like we were a good 10 minutes in until they had said, yes, we have a second shooter that we are looking for. Just in terms of maybe public fear that there is a shooter on the loose, or is that sort of inside machinations in your professional mind that maybe they do know who this person is and they don't feel like the public is currently at risk?
My read of that is that this was a dispute between 2 people in the minds of the authorities. And so it's not like this was a crazed mass shooter who was out to shoot random people. This was that individual was targeting the initial suspect, the 15-year-old who is currently in custody. And that's why they were not as concerned about public safety, because they're assuming that this was a dispute between the two individuals. And so I think that's why, and that caused evidently quite a bit of frustration. You heard the anger in the voices of the reporters who were reflecting how community members are feeling. How could you let a shooter be on the loose for hours and not let us know that? But what I will say is law enforcement clearly believed that the threat was not imminent, that there was not somebody who had sort of a motive to just shoot random citizens without, just randomly. And I think that answer was not satisfactory to a lot of the reporters. But based on my experience covering this type of thing, I can sort of understand why law enforcement assumed that that second suspect, once he got away or he or she got away, they were not going to be opening fire and shooting at other people.
I think one of the most tragic parts about this, of which there are many, Anna, is that one of the victims is just a 2-year-old little boy who was taken to the hospital with a gunshot wound, but is listed in satisfactory condition. So hopefully that boy is okay. We'll be able to make a recovery. But clearly, this community also is dealing with the issue of gun violence on a larger scale here. The mayor did talk about this multi-pronged approach that they want to do. I mean, what is it that you can tell us about what this community is reckoning with and what they're trying to do to rein it in?
Well, this was about the 270th or 271st mass shooting. That's where 4 or more people, not including the shooter, are injured or killed by gun violence. So that's so far this year. We are actually on par to be doing better than last year and the year before. In 2021, we saw a major spike in mass shootings around the country. Now, thinking and talking specifically about Seattle, they clearly have an issue that they're concerned about. This is not the first case where you have a dispute between two groups, and that was evident from that press conference. Now, you mentioned that 2-year-old boy. I think we've all been focusing on that. There were some witness accounts of people who saw the boy's mother absolutely distraught. This little boy is in satisfactory condition. Notice that it's not the same as stable condition. So hopefully everything's going to be okay. But I think everybody in that community is praying for that young child. You also saw video from others, people who were just at the food festival, and you see all these strollers, all these families running with very young children. This was an event that brought tens of thousands of people that day. Tons of kids. And how many kids witnessed that? How many kids were running away from that, falling down, maybe getting stepped on? It's just an absolutely horrific thing. So even though we're doing better than previous years and that post-pandemic spike with gun violence, we've got a long way to go. Washington has pretty strict they have pretty good gun laws, but it's so easy to drive across straight lines purchasing guns in other states. So I'll just say that. And police departments around the country, especially in states with stricter laws, they say that is a major issue, and it's just so hard to combat it. I think law enforcement and communities at large have just sort of accepted that people have guns, and what these leaders were talking about, where we've got to have community outreach to prevent young people from falling into gang activity or fall into this type of activity where you have a dispute that ends in people shooting at each other in a crowded space.
So tragic. Anna Schechter, thank you. We are going to monitor all of this and bring you updates as they happen. For now, we're going to take a quick break. You're watching CBS News 24/7.